Hello, and thank you so much for joining us for Tips for the Transition, the Career Roadmap, where we empower women to navigate uncertainty with poise and positivity. I'm Maria Tomás-Keegan, and each week we share insightful conversations with a lot of wisdom and a little bit of wit, while creating resources to encourage women to be more confident, resilient, and brave in their career and life choices. We stream live weekly every Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific Time on the E360 TV network, where you can find us on your favorite streaming platforms like Roku, and Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And we go live simultaneously on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook, where you can interact with us. And if you listen to your favorite shows on a podcast, we're also on all of those channels. So if something inspires you today and you want more, please subscribe. Click on your favorite channel, leave us a comment, and share your favorite episodes so we can make more ripples around the world for women. So today's thought-provoking question is, why are you exhausted by the work you do when you used to love it? Have you ever felt that? And do you sometimes wonder, what's wrong with me? I can tell you from experience that you're not alone if you're feeling this way. It happened to me, and I talk to women who express this concern every week. So I am thrilled to bring back Randi Roberts, an expert on the matter. She's an accomplished executive and career coach with over 30 years of corporate experience in the pharmaceutical industry. Randi's journey from sales rep to vice president and later chief commercial officer has provided her with deep insights into career transitions and leadership development. So, in this episode, Randi will share her experiences and provide practical advice on addressing career burnout. We'll explore why this issue is so common, the risks of quickly jumping from the frying pan into the fire, and the aspects of corporate life that are within our control. Randi also will discuss the importance of mindset and strategies for finding fulfillment in your career again. So stay with us to learn how to reignite your career passion and take control of your professional life. You won't want to miss this enlightening conversation with my friend, Randi Roberts. Welcome, Randi. Welcome back.
Thank you, Maria. It's so good to be here with you.
Thank you. I'm so happy to have you back to talk about this because it affects so many of us at one time or another. So let's start at the beginning. What if we have a woman leader in our audience who right now feels exhausted by what used to excite her? Where does she begin to figure this out?
Yeah. I think where it really starts is something that you said in the introduction, which is to recognize that you're not alone. That this is something that so many people, so many women will experience at some point. And one of the hard things is that we think, if you do think that you're alone in it, or you think maybe something, it's not that the situation has changed, somehow you're doing something wrong. You may sort of suffer in silence. So I think it's really important to acknowledge what's going on and seek out some support. And most of us have mentors, friends, colleagues that we can share these things with. And it's amazing what happens when you do, because you do find out that that you're not alone, that so many people experience it. And the way I sort of came upon this as an important topic to talk about was my own experience. It's so true for so many of us. I was one of those, my first career was in pharmaceuticals. I was one of those that jumped out of bed every morning before the alarm went off, could not wait to get to work, almost every day for 30 years. And then all of a sudden that changed. Well, it felt like all of a sudden that changed. And I was hitting the snooze button, either literally or figuratively. And really what used to energize me, I used to feel full of energy at the end of a long, stressful day. And then that changed. And it was really time for me to do some soul searching and figure out what was going on.
All right, so let's talk about that soul searching. What did you do to figure out what was going on? What did you do?
Yeah, I mean, it really did start with sharing the thoughts and what was going on with a trusted other. And then it was really to figure out what it was that was missing, what it was that had changed, if it was me, if it was the situation, if it was my goals, because I think that is such a critical point to figure out what's going on to make sure that you're fixing the right thing. Otherwise, whatever's going on, like if you think that the solution is to change jobs, which it may be, but if you haven't sorted out what the real issue is, you may go to this other job and take the problem with you. So it really does start with sorting out what is it that's missing? What is it that used to be there? And, get to the root of that.
That's brilliant advice because you're so right. There are so many factors that go into what has changed for us, right? So you said it might be we're feeling differently about the place we work, or the work we do, or the people we work with. Or it might be that there are uh, reorganizations happening in the environment in which we work that are way beyond our control, right? And and that may not be feeling as good as it used to. So I love that you said we got to figure out what to fix and not jump at the first inclination that might be I got to get out of here.
Yeah. Because oftentimes, if you get to the source of what's changed, what's missing, what's different, you may be able to solve for that right where you are. And,
Right.
that there's financial reasons, there's all kinds of reasons to stay where you are if it still works for you. Or make that change, sort of your own choosing on your own time frame. So getting to the bottom of it can really help there. You you listed many important factors of why, what may have changed. One that I want to add is, you talked about the people you work with and the nature of the work and dynamics in the company. But one of the things that sometimes sneaks up on us is if you're a person like I always was and still am, that's motivated by a stretch goal, that intentionally puts yourself in situations that grow you, you may have, like, your shoes may have grown to fill the shoes of that role. You may have done what you need to do, so it's no longer a stretch. And what you may need is that growth opportunity. That's one that sometimes we don't see.
Right. So we just keep working at it, going at it, doing our thing, and we don't realize that the challenge is gone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we need that challenge to feel fulfilled, excited, energized. And we don't real it could quietly just kind of go away until we really we have got to stop and really think about that and
Yeah.
try to put our fingers on it.
And
So
if we let that happen quietly, or if we're not looking at it, we miss things on both ends. We
yeah,
may miss that we need that, and so we're not actively seeking it out, and it can always be there. And on the other hand, we're missing the opportunity to celebrate what we've accomplished and how we have grown into that thing and how we may be ready for the next stretch.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, good point about celebrating. I talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
All right, so in your experience, your vast experience, um, how common is this problem?
I think it's very common. I don't want to say it impacts most people. One of the things that we usually know about ourselves is, are we motivated by that stretch opportunity and that growth? Or are we someone that wants to feel more comfortable And to be fair, there's different times for both. So you may be a person that, at times wants to feel in command and comfortable, and at other times needs a stretch. So it really does depend on what you need, but it's quite common. The leaders that we speak to and we work with, Maria, are people that are used to taking on things that are a bit out of our comfort zone and growing into it and figuring it out. Like, that's part of the fun. So if that isn't there, that can definitely feel like it's missing.
Yeah. So, yeah, I find that it's more common with my clients than I would like to admit, because I hate seeing it. I remember so well when it happened to me, um, and how it made me feel underutilized, undervalued, and like nobody was recognizing that I had done this great thing, figured it out. I love the way you put that. Figured out these challenges, and then they just expected me now to ride, just go do it. Now you figured it out, and that's not what challenged me. So I was looking for something else, and it wasn't coming. Everybody else said I should feel good about the work I did.
Yeah, it's interesting. A couple of things come to mind when you say that. One is sometimes it's in the best interest of the company or your own leadership to let things lie. If you're really good at what you're doing, please keep doing it. They may show lots of appreciation, but may not recognize that something's missing for you.
Right.
The
Right.
other thing is, if you are a person like I always have been, like you are, who needs that growth and stretch, if it's not there, you may lose some of your motivation.
Yeah. Oh,
And you
that's
may
so.
lose some
Yeah.
of yourself in a way. Like,
Mhm.
when I experienced that, I didn't feel like myself anymore. I felt like I had lost some of my best stuff. And actually, that was part of what led me to leave corporate and start my own business. But that's not the answer for everybody. There
Yeah.
is an answer, but the answer is very unique to the individual.
Right. And it takes exploring the options and the possibilities. So within a corporate environment, I mean, I was with IBM, so we had lots of opportunities to move into other divisions, departments, and explore uh, the the new challenges that and I did that for you know almost 18 years, just kept moving within the organization until that was not what the organization wanted me to do.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah. So, sometimes the decisions are made for us, and sometimes we get to orchestrate what we do next.
Yeah.
And that's always a better place to be, right?
I completely agree with you, because the reality is, if even if you're fortunate in working a big company environment, as I did, I was in big pharma, there, if you're high potential, there's usually someone there or multiple people that really advocate for you. And yet no one can have your best interests in at heart the way you do for yourself, because there's competing agendas there.
Yeah.
And so it's really true that there are times to do what's asked of you, especially early on. You get that experience, sort of give to the company, but there is a time to know what you need and hold your boundaries and really advocate for that. And many times it works out for you right where you are. And if it doesn't, you're still doing what's true for you and what can lead you to the next thing.
Right. Good point. Good point. All right. So let's say that woman we just spoke about, who's exhausted and feels like she just can't take it anymore in the situation she's in, and she chooses to jump to another job to hopefully improve her situation. What can happen when she does that? And are there any unintended consequences of
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, there definitely can be unintended consequences. People make those moves. Sometimes it's money. Sometimes it's a better opportunity. Sometimes it's to go to a company that is more values aligned to them. Sometimes it's a combination of those things. That so on one end of the spectrum, you may find the perfect thing and it may work out beautifully, and that's lovely. That's wonderful. On the other hand, if there is something other than a new situation going on, you may take that with you. And it will often rear its ugly head, to use a that term, in time. You know, you'll go through a honeymoon period of things being new and you're learning and new people and all of that. Sometimes you get lucky and it doesn't come back, but oftentimes we will repeat the same patterns. And so some kind of a similar dynamic will show up. Look, you know, sometimes it takes a little longer to learn the lesson. So it doesn't mean you can't fix it that next time. But there is a risk that you will change the wallpaper, change the address where you're going, change the people you work with, but not change the problem.
I think that's such a good point that you just made. And I'm just thinking about um, how we can avoid jumping, like I said, from the frying pan into the fire. Um, how can we avoid n- not changing the situation? I have lots of responses to this, my own question, but let me ask you, how do we avoid that?
Yeah. I think it can be really helpful, and I have this discussion with a lot of clients, because one of the most common things that people come to me with is, "I'm not sure my path is the right one anymore. I need to figure out what it is, you know, that I want going on." And so I find it really helpful to be as objective as you can about solving that problem. I mean, it's very personal. I don't mean to discount that. But sometimes if you can sort of use a process, it can feel less emotional. You can be more objective about it and really sort of sort it out. And so I actually developed a tool that I use with a lot of clients, and I'm happy to make available to your listeners. It's free on my website under the resource section. It's a career satisfaction assessment. And what it does is it just looks at 8 different pillars that are often fundamental in building career satisfaction. And you can take yourself through a self-assessment to see how are things rating on each of those 8 pillars. And that helps you in a couple of ways. First of all, if you see some things that are very low, okay, those are things that need solving. Can they be solved where you are, or do you need to make a move? On the other hand, it also shows where things are working well so that you can lean into that where you are, or make sure that you're going to get those in the new place. So whatever comes up, you know, things, if they're high or low, the gaps are really, really informative, what's missing, but the things that are working well are important too. And I think that's a great place to start. Get a little bit objective, get out of your own head,
Yeah,
talk to somebody else about it. You know, it's a great place to start. The answers are different for every person, but
yeah,
the questions can be the same, at least the starting place.
yeah. It would be so interesting to compare your assessment with my assessment because you and I have created very similar things that are probably a little bit different.
I would
Um,
love to do that.
but it's so important what you just said on identifying what's working for you so that you know and that you want that again, right? And what isn't working for you that you want to change.
Yeah,
And being aware of it's like doing a skills assessment saying these are all the hard and soft skills I have. Now of those, what are the ones I love to do and what are the ones I don't want to do anymore? It's
exactly.
another assessment that I do with clients, but it creates awareness. And I think that's where everything starts. You talked about objectivity. So getting an objective view of where you sit right now isn't always easy to do by yourself. So the very first point you made
Yeah.
is surround yourself with people you trust, who you can talk to about this openly, get feedback, and just explore the possibilities of, what might be the right thing for you to do next. And
Yeah.
it doesn't mean you have to change everything at once.
No, not at all. I love what you're saying in terms of getting some, getting some support, getting some help with it. And sometimes we hold ourselves back in asking for that help,
Hmm.
but I will I'll place a bet that every woman listening to you here, listening to us here, who has achieved certain amount, they have a network of people that they could
Hmm.
reach out to for some support. And think about, how do you feel when someone calls you and asks for support? You may feel flattered. You certainly, most people want to help other people. We're
Yeah,
sort of giving people a gift by giving them an opportunity to
yeah,
help. And
yeah,
we hold ourselves back from that.
right. For me, it's an honor when someone asks for my help. It's an honor that I can share my experience, right? So, you and I are coaches, but we haven't figured it all out yet either. I don't know that we ever will. I think that's the cycle of life, right?
That's what
But
makes it interesting.
we may, right, but we may be a step or two beyond where someone else is, and they could learn from. I love coaching and mentoring women who are struggling with this idea of, what should I do next? Why am I feeling like this? What's wrong with me?
And I celebrate the question, because it's so easy for us to put our heads down, work hard, work long hours, do all those things, and not prioritize our own fulfillment.
Right,
And that's the reason you and I do the work that we do, is because it's such a pleasure to support people in doing that. And it is possible to love your work and to be energized by it. And I
yeah,
mean, that's what I want for people.
right, exactly, exactly. So we've all already talked about whether the answer to this is only changing jobs or careers, even, doing a wholesale reinvention of who you are, or what you do, or just doing the same thing in another company. What other answers are there for this situation?
I think one of the things, because you're right, a wholesale change, as you and I have done in our careers, we're now in our second careers, um, or changing companies, but it's also possible to make some changes and stay right where you are. So there's kind of three different possibilities. I think that um, one of the things that can be really valuable is to take a look at where you are at this phase of your career and your life, because the things that are really drivers for us, the things that we prioritize the most, change at different phases of our lives. So early on in your career, you may have an idea. Like for me, I started as a sales rep, but I had my eye on being a vice president, leading sales and marketing teams. And so the steps that I needed to take looked different as I got to different rungs of the ladder. And there are people that I work with that may get a couple of steps up that ladder, not there yet. And it's time to take a look and see if they're still working towards the right goal. Does that still fit who they are, who they want to be, where they want to be in 5, 10 years? Has the market changed and the thing that they originally had their eye on is different now? That kind of thing. So I think it's worthwhile to check back in on, are you working towards the right goal? Every couple of years. I mean,
Mhm.
I go back and look at that at least every 2 years. And I'm in a position, you're in a position, running our own businesses. We can reshape things. And I do every year. I take a look at, does my business still fit? And I really encourage people to do that in the corporate world too. there are certain things that you have less control over in the corporate world, but there are definitely still things that you can control or certainly influence. So if you know what they are, you can go after them.
Oh, I'd love that's a great segue. I'd love to talk about that. So, um, there are so many things out of our control in corporate.
Yeah,
Most things I would venture to say. But what aspects are within our control? Let's just be specific about that.
sure. Well, to take a step back for a moment is I have conversations so frequently with clients and even with myself about focusing on what you can control. Because the things you truly can't control, all you're going to do is create stress for yourself. You are not going to influence it at all. So getting clear on what you can control not only helps you move forward, but it just saves angst and energy for you.
Yeah.
So the kinds of things that I think about, like that you can control in a corporate environment, are what is the goal? What is, you take a look at your own skill set and your own interest and really identify that. Your company may have very well established development plans and career pathways, but that doesn't mean you have to buy into it. You may have a different idea. And sometimes you can create a win win and you can get others to buy in on what it is that you think you want. And that's great. But if you can't, that may be a time that it's time to separate. If you're not getting the support you want to explore or take a little bit of a different path, it can feel like a real risk to even bring up the topic. Because when you and I were talking about seek someone out, get some mentorship or some coaching or some support, a lot of times you don't want that to be from your boss because
No.
you may need to talk through things that you don't necessarily want to talk to your boss about. So it can feel like a bit of a risk to even bring up the conversation. But if you are a valued employee, the right leadership will welcome that conversation because they will look for ways to create a win-win so that you get what you want and they get to retain your talent. So, there's no one right answer of when is the time to take that risk and bring up that conversation. But if the issue is getting, I call it itchy enough for you, if it's getting irritating enough for you, sometimes it may feel like you don't have a choice. Like that can weigh heavily enough that it is time to bring up the conversation and explore possibilities. Sometimes, like I've seen situations where clients have had that feeling they want to be doing something different. In the one client I'm thinking about right now, she really loved building new things and wanted to be stretched and grown. When she went to her boss and they had that conversation to think about possibilities, she ended up bringing an idea to the table for a new product line, a new offering for the company. She got to build something new. The company was willing to invest in it. It ended up working out really well. It was a new revenue stream, ended up being profitable. She got to lead it. It was a tremendous opportunity all around. Doesn't always work out like that. I want to own that. But in this case, her taking the risk enabled her to get what she needed at the benefit of the company. And if she hadn't brought it up, she never would have known. She might have left. She might have
Right.
been able to do that somewhere else. Like we don't get to see if that path would have been better than this path. But there's so many good reasons to stay where you are if there's enough good things working out. This was a case study of a situation that worked out really, really well. But she had to take that risk.
Yeah, there is a lot of risk associated or perceived risk associated with bringing up the topic with the leadership team that you're working with at the moment. There is some risk there. But I will bet you that there's someone that you're working with that you've been has mentored you in some way, who may be enough removed from the situation where you can start the conversation with them and just kind of play out the scenarios,
Yeah.
figure
Ab-
out what might be the possibility here. And then who knows, that person may be able to kind of grease the skids for the more difficult conversation with the direct leadership team. There are so many ways to navigate this. Um, and I want to talk about what else is in our control. And this has to do with our attitude, our mindset about things. So, what, from your experience, what role does mindset and attitude play in all of this?
Mindset and attitude are everything, and we absolutely can influence them. We all have our moments, but the way it's funny because I filmed a short video for my own stuff this morning and talked about this very issue. I think about mindset as the glasses through which you see the world. And, you can, if you're wearing, rose colored glasses, you're going to see everything pink. And if you're wearing glasses that are a little bit foggy, you're not going to see things in crisp detail. But you can change your glasses and you can swap them out for another pair. You can take them off for a while. There's a lot of things you can do. And if you think of mindset that way, you really can influence it. If so, like, let's look at an example. And this is a risk in mindset. If you start to feel a little dissatisfied or in some way unhappy about your current situation, very often your mindset will lead you in a direction of finding more and more reasons, more and more evidence for why this situation isn't right for you. Whereas if your mindset is more, okay, sometimes being uncomfortable is a sign of growth opportunity. Let me embrace this a little bit and figure out what's going on. If you have that mindset, you may find the things that are still working, the things that are opportunities to make it better. At least you give yourself a chance at it. So, like so many things, it starts with awareness. How are you influencing this for yourself? And a really important aspect of this too, Maria, is we are who we are. We're not one person at work and one person in our life. And so if your mindset is positive, that impacts every aspect of your life. Likewise, if your mindset is negative or down, that influences every aspect of your life. So we tend to think about this just from a leadership perspective, but it's really a holistic impact.
So true. How we think of things, how we think about things, can influence our next move, right? So I love what you said. If you are thinking that there's nothing you can do about this situation, that will be a self-fulfilling prophecy. There will be nothing you can do about the situation, and you will be forced to make a choice that may not serve you the best. But if you open the aperture a little bit and think about things in a more positive way, be curious and seek out the possibilities, you may ultimately find that there really is nothing you can change to make you feel better about this. And then your decision's pretty clear. Or you may find out that there are things that if we could just tweak it a little bit, if we could shift the way we're doing something or who we're doing it with, within the organization, the possibilities could be endless. So,
Yes.
yeah.
I love what you said about open the aperture a little bit, because we wrestle with these things ourselves. We stay in our own head. And this is the magic of seeking someone else out to talk to about it and it might even be, Maria, can I have 15 minutes of your time? I just want to process what I'm thinking. And then by me verbalizing it, you can see where I may have a limiting belief. that's clouding my vision. You
Right.
may be able to say something brilliant like, well, let's maybe look at this a different way and open up my thinking in a way that I just can't possibly do it for myself. And
Right.
what you said about curiosity, I love that so much. I think curiosity is a leadership skill. And I think by asking some questions, you can open your mind to new possibilities. And even if, like, if you, I think the opposite of curiosity is judgment. If you
Mhm.
come to a judgment about something, you come to a conclusion about something, if you will take a pause and ask a few questions, you may come out at exactly the same space. Okay.
Yep.
But then you may understand better how another person is seeing it. The outcome will always be better, even if your position doesn't change. But who knows what the possibilities are?
Right. And you're coming to that conclusion with more information to support it. So when you make a decision based on all the information you can gather at the time, then you always make a good decision and you can look back on it with no regret, right?
Yeah.
And
I,
that's an important piece of this, that we don't just jump, right? We just don't take a leap uh, of some. Some people call this a leap of faith. I believe a leap of faith has a lot of data behind it. Um, that's the way I prefer to take leaps of faith, anyway. But some people take a leap without thinking it through.
mhm. Yeah. I mean, that's not in my comfort zone. I'm like you, I want to make educated leaps and that
Right,
kind of thing. But
right,
yeah, so there's some information to gather behind the scenes to make sure that it's the right thing for you. But I think, the curiosity piece of it and the working through it with someone else can really help check your mindset and make sure
yeah,
you're operating in a way that best serves you.
yeah,
One of the things, a conversation I love to have with clients is if they're working through a leadership challenge, something with their own skills, dealing with a difficult situation with their own team. I love to talk about how does future you want to feel about this, and what do you need to do today to serve that outcome. And thinking about it that way can really help you put essentially data points behind it
right.
and operate in a way that really does serve you. And then, a point you made too that I love, which is doing something with no regrets. I really try and look at it as not what you should have done, because that's got regrets and shame in it.
Sure.
It's more a matter of looking at the situation so you can learn from it and grow from it, and then thinking about how do you want to handle it prospectively when you're faced with it again. That like lifts the veil of shame off of it and
Hmm.
blame and all that negative and gives you the
Yeah,
opportunity to grow into it.
right. And it just comes to mind that, we're talking about tough decisions here. And you spoke about this earlier about how things shift for us, right? What's important to us shifts as our circumstances change and as we evolve. So when our values shift, we need to take stock of how these decisions that we are about to make honor our values as of
Exactly.
today, right?
Exactly.
So when we do that, I believe that we can never make a bad decision if it honors our values today, right? So what
I
does that mean?
completely
You
agree.
got to know what your top 5 values are,
Yeah.
right? So and those can shift. Those can shift. So your idea of taking stock every couple of years, I would say at least I do it annually. Not a lot shifts in a year,
Mhm.
but if I go 2 years, a lot could shift in my world. So, yeah, but everybody finds their cadence, right? That
Yeah,
works for them. Yeah,
absolutely.
right.
Something just occurred to me, Maria, as we were talking, is we've been really focused on individual people taking responsibility for their own career. And that's absolutely our focus. That's a lot of the work that I do. The people that are listening to this have leaders. We're sort of talking about how they can engage their leaders in helping for their own career, but they're also setting this environment for the people that report to them. And so in
Yeah,
that too, one of the influences that we have is to be a force for good in this and create that environment for our own teams. Like making that change alone may give you the gratification, may create a shift to have more fulfillment where you are. But it's
I
a way
love that.
for us to give back what we've learned.
Yeah, that's so good. So I'm so glad you brought that into it. You're so right. There's so much as leaders that we can influence on our teams, and being the role model, right, for creating an atmosphere where there's less risk associated with having tough conversations, for instance.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right? Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. I love that. All right. I have another scenario for you, Randy.
Bring it on.
What what if a woman's career role provides the security she needs? Um, but can't she just tough it out and wait for the excitement to return, maybe?
Maybe. Sure. And look, what this is such an important question because I don't in any way want people to think that jumping to the next job is something that you take on, from a cavalier fashion. Part of doing that self-exploration is what are the things that are working for you in your current job? And if security is important to you, there is a time where that has to rule the decision. I was always the primary breadwinner in my family. The years where my daughter was in college, security had a different role for me than afterwards when I no longer had that responsibility. So you have to know what's right for you. And we talk about security, it's a couple different things. I was just talking about income, but it's also really how secure are you feeling in the longevity with your company. Is your company still going to be there? If you're really with a small company,
Mm,
security means a little bit of a different thing. How secure are you? So you need to know if that's one of the values you need to serve right now. Like, be unapologetic about that, serve that value, but finding out what else might be missing, you might be able to serve it in a very different way. For example, if the compensation and the feeling that your job will still be there is exactly what you need right now, but maybe you don't feel as aligned to the mission of the company. Or, like, for me, I always need to know that I'm doing some good while I'm doing well. If that piece of it is missing, you may be able to solve that in other areas of your life. There may be a way to get involved in community service or mentoring others. There are other ways to serve that value if you're aware that that's what needs to be served. So, our work is one piece of our life to solve that, but there are others. You just have to be open to thinking about it that way.
I love that. Thank you very much for bringing that up because you're so right. Although we spend 1/3 of our waking hours at work, at
At
least.
least.
Yeah, at least. It is only a small part of our holistic life, right? There's so many other components to it, that we can influence. So I love that you just said that. If we're not, if we feel, I'm going to use the word stuck for lack of a better term. If we feel stuck because the role we're in provides the pay the regular paycheck, the benefits, the compensation packet, the bonuses, whatever that is, and you don't feel that you can give that up right now, find other avenues in your life where you can uh, bring more joy and fulfillment into your life, and and switch the way you think about it, that it doesn't all have to come from your career. And when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Dr. Wayne Dyer.
I know, my favorite quote.
It's a mantra of mine, but it's so true. When we change the way we look at things, the things we look at
Yeah.
change. So change the way you look at your career. So it is a means to an end, right? You're going to keep doing what you're doing and doing it well, but you're going to get the fulfillment that you want
Yeah.
somewhere else.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny.
Love that.
What just came to mind to me for me is my sister lives in a different part of the country, totally different industry. She works for a big oil company. Wanted to find something more, and what she did was she found a need for them to do a lot more about diversity, equity, inclusion. She proposed a program. Her company now invests in her going to conferences, leading discussion groups and things within a big oil company. Like, who would think that you
Yeah,
could do that? But by her bringing up the idea, she found that win-win, and she loves it. I'm so proud of her.
that's great. Great. Those are, great stories that you shared about how women can find the way, right, to do it a little differently.
Mhm.
Love it.
And
Randy, you said this at the beginning. Our time is going to go like that every time we talk. The same thing happens, and we have to bring this one to a close as well. So I would love to ask you to just wrap this up for us. What are the key takeaways you'd like our audience to take with them today?
yeah, I think, it really does start with your unique situation, digging into what is a situation for you, although you're probably not the first one to walk that path. So do some thinking on your own, but reach out. If you look around, you may see people, women that have walked that path before, that have found a creative solution, that may have some ideas for you. So, I will say you are unique, but you're not the only one that's ever done this. So I would start there with trying to figure out what it is, reach out for some resources, and then, sort out the things that you can control and the things that you just have to learn to live with potentially. The extremes are everything from, toughing it out for a while if there's enough there that serves you, like security, when we talked about, to completely reinventing yourself, as you and I have done. We came out of corporate world, and now we're both entrepreneurs working with other executives to help them achieve their goals. So, the spectrum of solutions is vast, and it's just about finding the one that's right for you.
So good. Such good stuff. Thank you so much for being with us today, Randy. I appreciate what you do and the people you serve. It is such good work, and we are happy to have someone like you with your experience and your insights to help other people who, like I do, right? It's like going back to our roots. We're helping the people that where we used to live and work, right? And that's so gratifying. I appreciate what you do.
Thank you so much.
And I know that a lot of people are going to want to reach out to you. So tell us the one best way to do that, please.
The best way to find me is on my website, which is randyrobertscoaching.com. It's Randy with an I. And if you were interested in the career satisfaction assessment that I mentioned, you can go there and find that under the resource section. So you can send me a message, you can read my stuff. Love to hear from you.
And we have links for all of that in the show notes for everybody. So, yeah, in fact, there's a link for both of our assessments. And wouldn't it be fun if we had some people download both of them and see, maybe they'll get some different insights out of them. That's great.
That would be really wonderful.
It'd be fun. Yeah. Thank you so much, Randy. I appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.
And for those who are watching and listening, I appreciate that you're a part of this community. So if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a comment, click a star. Let us know what you think. Creating and sharing resources for women is just one of my favorite things to do. And each episode of this show is a resource for someone out there. Another favorite thing I love is being a career and life coach for women leaders navigating challenging times and helping them get unstuck, explore new possibilities, and find harmony in their careers and lives. So, if something in this episode resonates with you and you'd like a fresh perspective, reach out. Let's talk. The links, as I said, to connect with Randi and I are in the show notes below. And then let's meet again here next Thursday, every Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific time for another inspiring conversation. Because you know what? I believe it's our time to thrive. So let's thrive together. Until next time, I'm Maria Tomás-Keegan, helping you turn transition into triumph.